You were laughing about the girl with a gun while she was pulling my nephew out of hell.
We didn't know who she was.
Don't scroll, the best part ahead. Hit subscribe, tap like, and drop a comment. Jacob Whitman held his phone. Mom, I'm not coming alone. A pause on the other end stretched for 3 heartbeats. Who is she? Susan's voice was a little too calm. That kind of calm always meant a storm. Nora, we've been together for 4 months. 4 months, and you said nothing. I didn't say nothing. I was waiting. Waiting for what, Jacob? He looked out the window of his place in Grand Rapids. Nora stood by the car in jeans and a white t-shirt, checking something on her phone. The wind had tousled her dark ash blonde hair a little. She didn't know he was watching. She's special, he said quietly. Special how? You'll see. Another pause. Then a sigh, the kind his mother always used to close a subject. All right, Sunday at 5 o'clock. Your father will make ribs. Jacob lowered the phone. Nora glanced back and waved to him through the window. She was smiling. On Saturday night, they were stretched out on his couch. An old action movie played on the screen, but neither of them was watching. Nora was idly playing with his fingers, a habit he had grown to love. You're nervous, she said. No, you're lying. He went quiet. Nora propped herself up on an elbow and looked into his face. Her eyes were gray, like the morning they first met at the coffee shop. He had spilled espresso on her jacket, and she'd said, "No big deal, I've got a spare." Later, he learned she always carried extra clothes, in case a call came in. Jake, if your parents don't like something about me, it'll be fine. You're lying again. He pulled her in. My parents are just traditional, he said into her hair. Traditional like your mom bakes pies. Traditional like they have firm ideas about everything. Nora shifted back and looked at him again. About me too. They don't know you. But did you tell them? He didn't answer, which was an answer. Nora rose from the couch and went to the window. Darkness was already settling beyond the glass. Far off, red lights flickered, maybe an ambulance, maybe a fire engine. She watched them until they were gone. This is because I'm military, isn't it? She said without turning. You're much more than that. It's going to be a problem for them. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her. She stood still, but she didn't pull away. Give them a chance, he whispered. A chance for what? To change me. A chance to see you. She turned in his arms. Her look was serious, no smile. If I see judgment about this, I'll leave. Right away. You won't. And if I do, Jacob took her face in his hands. Then I'll leave with you. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. The Whitman's house sat on Maple Street, 3rd from the corner. White blinds, a freshly mown lawn, an American flag on the porch. Jacob pulled up by the driveway and didn't cut the engine. Just a minute, he said. Nora looked at the windows. Shadows moved inside. Someone was cooking. Someone was waiting. They already know we're here, she said. I know. Then why are we sitting? He turned to her. She was in a dark blue dress she'd bought specifically for the evening. Simple, modest, with long sleeves. A delicate silver pendant at her throat, a gift from her grandmother. She looked perfect. But under the dress, on her right wrist, a thin black streak of grease remained. She tried to scrub it off, but it wouldn't come out. Forget the smudge, he said softly. Let's go, she said at last. David Whitman opened the door before they could knock. He was tall, solid, in a plaid shirt and dark jeans. Gray at the temple, a clean jawline, a handshake that told you everything. Dad, this is Nora, Jacob said. Read, Nora added, offering her hand. David looked at the hand, then at her face. The shake was brief, professional, without warmth. Come in, he said, stepping aside. Inside smelled like ribs and something sweet. Susan stood at the kitchen table in a white blouse and black pants. Her hair was pinned in a neat bun. She was smiling, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Nora, she said, coming over, how nice to finally meet you. Thank you for having me, Nora replied. We've been waiting so long to see who stole our son's heart. She said it lightly, but Nora felt the edge. The tone was right, but the words were not. They sat down. Jacob tried to get a conversation going, but his words kept breaking against the silence. David served the food, Susan poured water. Everything was polite and chilly, like a hospital room. Jacob says you're a nurse? Susan asked, slicing bread. A field medic. A pause. Susan stopped cutting. Is there a big difference? Nora knew this question. She'd heard it 100 times, always with the same tone. Nurses work in hospitals. I work where there aren't hospitals yet. David lifted his eyes from his plate. Ambulance work? Sometimes. More often a helicopter. A helicopter? He repeated, as if he hadn't heard right. On weekends, I pull duty with a National Guard medevac crew. We launch when ground teams can't make it in time. The silence grew thicker. Jacob tightened his grip on his fork. Nora is one of the best in her unit, he said quickly. She saved. The National Guard, Susan cut in. That's the Army, right? The Reserve, Nora answered. I serve part-time. Weekdays are the clinic, weekends are the Guard. David set his fork down. He looked at Nora as if he'd just seen something he hadn't expected. You wear a uniform, he said slowly. Yes. And a weapon. On base, yes. Not in civilian life. But you know how? I do. He smiled, but there was no pleasure in it. Ha! A girl with a gun. Nora didn't drop her gaze. I'm not a girl with a gun. I'm a medic with training. Why would a medic need a sidearm? To protect patients if it comes to that. Susan let out a soft laugh, the kind that hurts more than words. I'm sorry, but it's just a little unusual. Jacob never said you were like that. Like what? Nora asked evenly. Well, military. Jacob ground his teeth. Mom. What? Mom? I'm just saying it's unexpected. Unexpected doesn't mean bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it's odd. Nora set her fork on her plate, very neatly, without a sound. Mr. Whitman, she said in a steady voice, I understand you weren't expecting me. Jacob maybe should have given you a heads up. But I didn't come here to justify who I am. David leaned in. No one's asking you to justify anything. We're just trying to understand why our son chose me. Nora finished for him. He went quiet. Susan looked away. Because I don't fit your expectations. Nora went on. Because I don't sit at home dreaming about a wedding. Because I do what most men are afraid to do. Nora, Jacob began, but she raised a hand. No, let me say it. Your son is a good man. He's smart, kind, honest. He deserves someone who loves him, not someone who checks boxes on somebody else's list. I love him, and if that isn't enough. A knock at the door cut her off. David stood, his eyes still on Nora. Susan sat frozen, staring into her plate. Under the table, Jacob reached for Nora's fingers and squeezed. She didn't squeeze back. From the foyer came David's voice. Frank, come on in. Frank Dwyer looked like the men you see in pickup truck commercials. Broad-shouldered, short gray stubble, hands used to hard work. He wore a denim jacket and a worn cap with a Team Rubicon emblem. In his hands, a cardboard box. Susie, I brought that apple pie you. He stopped when he saw Nora. His face changed. Not sharply, but noticeably. The smile faded. His eyes narrowed. He looked at her as if trying to remember something important. Sergeant Reed, he asked slowly. Nora straightened in her chair. She hadn't expected to hear her rank here, at this table, in this house. Yes, sir, she answered automatically. Frank set the box on the table, not taking his eyes off her. Caledonia, 2 weeks ago. The fire on Highway 42. Nora nodded slowly. Jacob looked between them, not understanding. You were there? She asked. I ran the ground team. We were coming in from the west, but got stuck in traffic. Your bird was first on scene. David took his seat again. Frank, you know her? We haven't met, Frank said, still watching Nora. But I saw her work. Susan clenched her napkin in a fist. What happened there? Frank finally tore his gaze from Nora and looked at the hosts. A pickup rolled over on the shoulder. Driver pinned inside, tank leaking. Fire caught fast. We weren't going to make it. And he nodded at Nora, they set down right on the highway while cars were still moving. I thought they were out of their minds. We weren't out of our minds, Nora said softly. We were fast. She pulled the kit out, Frank went on. By herself. The pilot hadn't even shut down the engine yet, and she was already at the truck with the trauma kit. The flames were about 3 meters away. You should have seen her face, no fear at all. Just focus. There was a team Nora put in. The pilots helped pull. The team showed up later. Frank cut her off. At first, it was just you. You were ordered to fall back, but you. I couldn't fall back, she said. He wouldn't have lasted. My nephew, Frank said quietly. Brandon, he's 23, volunteer firefighter. Jacob looked at Nora like he was seeing her for the first time. Susan gripped the napkin so hard her palms went white. David didn't blink. I didn't know, Jacob whispered. You didn't ask, Nora replied, not looking at him. Frank pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, and showed a photo. A young guy in a hospital bed, smiling, giving a thumbs up. He's home, Frank said. Got discharged yesterday. Doctors say he'll make a full recovery. Because of her. He looked at David and Susan. His gaze was hard. Do you even understand who's sitting at your table? David opened his mouth, but Frank didn't let him speak. I've known you for 30 years, David. We built this neighborhood together. You helped me when I got back from Afghanistan and couldn't find work. You're a good man. But what I heard when I walked in, he shook his head. I'm ashamed of both of you. Susan flinched as if struck. We didn't. You laughed, Frank said flatly. I heard your talk. A girl with a gun. You were making jokes about a woman who saves lives while you sit safe and slice bread. Frank, David began. No, let me finish. Frank straightened. Americans love to thank the military. At parades, on Facebook, slap bumper stickers on. But when a real service member sits at your table, you turn them into strangers. Because they had to do what you're afraid of. Because they've seen what you don't want to know. We didn't mean to offend, Susan said softly. But you did, Frank replied. Not her. Yourselves. You showed your respect is hollow. It only exists when it's convenient. He turned back to Nora. Thank you, Sergeant. For my nephew. For all the others. For doing what most people couldn't. Nora nodded. It was hard for her to look at him. Frank took a card from his pocket and set it in front of Nora. If you ever want to volunteer with us, call. Team Rubicon can always use someone like you. I'll think about it, Nora said. Frank nodded, then looked at David and Susan. I'm going. Eat, think, and maybe learn to see people as they are, not as you want them to be. He left without saying goodbye. The door clicked shut behind him. The room felt smaller without him. The pie stayed in the box. No one moved. Jacob looked at his parents, waiting for one of them to say something. Anything. Susan finally spoke. Her voice trembled. I didn't know. Nora dabbed her lips with a napkin, folded it neatly, and set it beside her plate. You didn't ask. Jacob said you're a medic. I am a medic. Nora looked her straight in the eye. But I'm also a sergeant in the National Guard. I completed basic training, medical school, survival training in harsh conditions. I know how to shoot, render care under fire, evacuate the wounded under fire. I train. I don't play soldier. I am a soldier. Susan looked away. David cleared his throat. His face had flushed. Look, we didn't want to. You did, Nora said quietly. You wanted me to be different, to fit your picture of what your son's girlfriend should be. Quiet, safe, obedient. That's not it. David stood. It's dangerous. For a woman. For a woman? Nora stood too. Or for a person. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Say it plain. Jacob reached out a hand. Nora, please. But she didn't stop. She stood across from David, straight, steady, without a hint of fear. Do you think women are too weak, too emotional, too delicate to save lives? I don't think that. Then what? Why is it that when a man joins the military, he's a hero And when a woman does, she's strange, unusual, something to joke about at the table. David's fists clenched. His face darkened. You have a son, and he fell in love with me. Not because I'm weak, because I'm strong. Strength isn't a weapon, David burst out. A woman's strength is family, a home, children. And who said I don't want that? A pause. Nora took a step closer. Her voice got quieter, but not softer. You think I chose the military instead of a family? That I chose service instead of love? You're wrong. I can have both. I can save lives and love your son. I can wear a uniform and want children. Those things don't contradict each other. They only contradict your assumptions. I'm scared, Susan said. When I hear the military, I think about the news, about coffins draped with flags, about mothers who never see their children again. I don't want Jacob. You don't want Jacob to get hurt? Nora finished. Because I might die. Susan nodded. Nora sat. Slowly, her voice gentled. Mrs. Whitman, I can't promise nothing will ever happen to me. No one can. People die every day. In car wrecks, from disease, in accidents. The military doesn't make me immortal, but it doesn't make me doomed either. I'm trained. I'm careful. I know how to stay alive. And I will do everything I can to come back. Always. Susan lifted her head. Her face was red, wet. And if you don't, then Jacob will know that I loved him. To my last breath. Jacob grabbed Nora's hand. He held it so tight. David sat down slowly, as if standing had suddenly become hard. My sister, he said quietly, joined the Marines in 1991, during Desert Storm. She was a mechanic, worked on helicopters, said it was safe, that she was far from the front. He stopped. Susan reached over and set a hand on his shoulder. Did she die? Nora asked softly. No. She came back, married her commanding officer, had 2 kids, lives in Colorado. We don't talk. Nora frowned. Why? David lifted his head. His eyes were red. Because when she came back, I didn't recognize her. She was different, harder, distant. She told stories I didn't want to hear, showed pictures I didn't want to see, and I told her to stop, to go back to who she was before. And what did she say? That she couldn't, and that if I couldn't accept the new her, it was better we didn't see each other. Silence. How many years has it been? Nora asked. 32, David whispered. 32 years, and I still don't know how to call her. Then call her, Nora said. Your sister, before it's too late. Why? She won't want to. She will. We all want to be loved as we are, even when we pretend we don't care. David stood. I'm sorry, he said. I was unfair. You were scared, Nora answered. That's not the same thing. He offered his hand. Nora looked at it, then took it. This time the handshake was longer, warmer. Thank you for loving my son, he said quietly. Nora nodded, and for the first time that evening, she smiled. At midnight, Nora stood on the porch, looking out at the empty street. The wind cooled her face. The flag overhead whispered softly in the dark. The door opened behind her. Jacob stepped out, holding 2 cups of hot tea. My folks are asleep, he said, handing her one. Good. They stood shoulder to shoulder, not touching, but close. Are you mad? He asked. At whom? At me. For not warning you. Nora sipped the tea. It was too hot, but she didn't set the cup down. You thought you were protecting me, she said. That if you told them ahead of time, they'd get used to the idea, that it would be easier. But I was wrong. Yes, because the truth doesn't get easier when you put it off. It gets heavier. He set his cup on the railing and turned to her. Nora, if you want to go. I don't. After everything they said. They said what they were afraid to say. It hurts, but it's honest. I respect honest. He touched her face, traced her cheekbone with his thumb. How can you be this strong? I'm not strong. I just know when it's worth fighting. And is this worth it? She turned to him, set her cup beside his, and took his face in her hands. You're worth it. He kissed her, slowly, deeply, like someone who'd been waiting a long time. she answered, pulling him closer. Their bodies pressed together, and he felt her tremble. Cold, he whispered against her lips, "No." "Then why are you shaking?" "Because you love me, and that's scarier than anything else." He drew back to look into her eyes. "Why is it scary?" "Because when you lose someone you love, it's worse than any wound." "Have you lost someone?" She nodded. She didn't want to talk, but the words came anyway. "He was a pilot on our crew. We flew together for 2 years. He was funny, smart. Always knew what to say when things were hard for me." "Were you together?" "Almost. He wanted to wait. Said he didn't want to complicate work. I agreed. And then she fell silent." "What happened?" "Mechanical failure. We were launching on a call. Marcus said it was fine, that we'd make it. And then the engine quit. We went down." Jacob squeezed her hand. "You were there?" "I was there. I saw him try to hold control. Saw his face change when he realized he wouldn't make it. The last thing he said was, 'Hang on, Nora, just hang on.' And you hung on." "I did. Broke a rib and wrecked my shoulder. But I lived, and she sighed, he died instantly." "I'm so sorry." "Me too. Every day. Because I never got to tell him I loved him back. I waited. Thought we had time. But we didn't." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Jacob pulled her in and held her so tightly it was as if he were afraid she might vanish too. "That's why you're afraid to love me," he whispered into her hair. "That's why I'm afraid to lose you. But you won't. You can't promise that. I can, because I'll fight. For us. For this. For everything we can have." She drew back and looked at him. Tears glimmered on her cheeks. She laughed through them. "You're crazy. I'm in love. It's pretty much the same thing." She kissed him again. This time slower, gentler. Her hands slid along his back, pulling him closer. He felt every line of her body through the thin fabric of her dress. "Let's go inside," she whispered. "Where?" "To the guest room, where you left my things." He moved aside and looked at her. "Nora, my parents are in the next room." "I know. And you still want to." "I want to feel you. Now, while the world has not taken us from each other yet." He could not refuse. In the morning, David sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. His face was gray, exhausted. He had not slept all night, it showed. When they walked in, he lifted his head. "Sit down," he said. They sat. Jacob held Nora's hand under the table. Susan stood by the sink, looking out the window. David sighed. "I called my sister yesterday," he said quietly. "For the first time in 32 years. She did not answer. I left a message. I said I was sorry, that I think about her, that I want to see her." "And what now?" Jacob asked. "I do not know. Maybe she will not call back. Maybe it is too late. Or maybe she has been waiting for this for 32 years, Nora said. David looked at her. His eyes were red. "I do not want to lose one more person because of my foolishness," he said. "I do not want my son to hate me the way I hate myself." Jacob squeezed Nora's hand tighter. "Dad, let me say this." David stood up. "Nora, I was unfair. I judged you for who you are instead of seeing what you do. Frank was right. You are a hero, and I should be grateful that my son found someone so strong." Nora nodded, not trusting her voice. "But," David continued, "I am also a father, and I cannot simply switch off my fear. I cannot pretend that your work does not scare me, that I am not worried about what could happen to my son if you are together." "I understand," Nora said. "So I am asking you for one thing. Be honest with him. Always. If it will be dangerous, say so. If you will be afraid, say so. Do not keep everything inside. Do not push him away when it gets hard." "I promise." David held out his hand. Nora took it. The handshake was firm and warm. "Welcome to our family," he said, "however ridiculous it may be." Nora laughed. Jacob hugged her, then went to his father and hugged him too. Susan turned from the window. Her face was wet, but she was smiling. "I will make breakfast," she said softly. "A real breakfast, with pancakes and bacon." She looked at Nora. Will you help? Nora nodded, and for the first time that weekend she felt that they truly wanted her there. A month later, Jacob proposed to her. Not on the porch, not in a restaurant. At the National Guard base, beside the helicopter where she worked. He arrived after her shift with a bouquet of wildflowers and a ring in his pocket. "What are you doing here?" she asked, walking out of the hangar. "Waiting for you," he answered. "I am dirty, tired. I smell like jet fuel. You are perfect." She laughed, but stopped when he went down on one knee. "Jake." "Nora Reed," he said, looking into her eyes, "I know that you are afraid. I know you have lost people, that you do not believe in happy endings. But I believe in us, in what we can have together." She was trembling. "I want you to be my wife, not in spite of who you are, but because of it. Because you are the bravest, strongest, most honest person I know, and I want to spend every day knowing that you will come home. To me." He took out the ring, simple, silver, with a small diamond. "Will you marry me?" She stood still. Behind her, the helicopter engine rumbled. Someone was preparing for the evening shift. The wind blew her hair off her face. Tears ran down her cheeks. "You are crazy. Crazy in love." "Yes." She laughed through tears and wiped her face with her sleeve. "Yes," she said quietly. "Yes, I will marry you." He stood, slipped the ring onto her finger. "It is perfect." He kissed her there on the runway, under the roar of engines and a starry sky. And that kiss held everything: promise, hope, fear, love. When they broke apart, Mike, the pilot, came out of the hangar. He saw them and smiled. "Congratulations, Sergeant," he called. "Somebody finally did it." Nora laughed, hiding her face on Jacob's shoulder. "Thank you, Mike." "Wedding on base." "Maybe," she answered. "Then I will fly over you, an honor guard." Jacob hugged her tighter. "Let us go," he said. "My parents are waiting. I did not tell them anything. I want you to tell them." When they arrived at the Whitmans' house, dusk had already fallen. David and Susan sat on the porch, drinking tea. Anne was there too. She had stayed in Grand Rapids for one more week, rebuilding her connection with her brother. "Hello," Nora said, climbing the steps. Susan smiled. "How was the shift?" "Quiet. No calls." "That is good." David set down his cup. "You look happy." Nora looked at Jacob. He nodded. "I have news," she said, raising her hand. The ring flashed in the light of the porch lamp. Susan gave a little scream and jumped up. "You are engaged?" "Yes." Jacob wrapped his arms around Nora. She said, "Yes." Susan hugged them both at once, laughing through tears. David rose more slowly, but he came over and set his hand on Nora's shoulder. "Welcome to the family," he said quietly. Officially. They sat on the porch late into the night, planning the wedding. Susan wanted a big ceremony, David something simpler. Nora said she did not care, where the only thing that mattered was having the people she loved. "And who will walk you down the aisle?" Susan asked. "Your father." Nora went still. Jacob squeezed her hand. "My father is gone," she said softly. "He died when I was 8. His heart. I am so sorry. And your mother? She is alive. But we do not speak. It has been a long time." "Why?" Nora sighed. "Because she did not approve of my service. She said I was betraying my father's memory, that he would not have wanted me to join the military. And you went anyway." "Yes, because he was the one who taught me that helping people matters. He was a firefighter. He died in the line of duty, and I decided I would continue what he started, in my own way." Susan dabbed at her eyes. "He would be proud of you." "I hope so." Nora smiled faintly. "But my mother does not think so." "Maybe you should try again." David suggested. "Call her. Invite her to the wedding." "Why?" "So she can tell me again that I am wrong. Or to give her a chance to see who you have become and cut in. I lost 32 years with my brother because of pride, and it was you who helped both of us find the courage to rebuild our family ties." Nora thought for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. "All right, I will try." The next morning, Nora dialed her mother's number. The phone rang for a long time. She was about to hang up when she heard a familiar voice. "Hello, Mom, it is me, Nora." A pause, long, cold. "Nora," her mother repeated. "How many years has it been?" "4. Since you said you did not want to see me." "I did not say that. You said that as long as I am in the army, you are not my mother." Another pause. "I was angry," her mother said quietly. "I did not want to lose you two." "Then why did you push me away?" "Because I was afraid. I am still afraid." Nora sighed, pressing the phone to her ear. "Mom, I am calling because I want to invite you to my wedding. I am getting married." Silence. Then a surprised breath. "To whom?" "To a man named Jacob. He is kind, smart. He loves me as I am." "And you are still in the military?" "Yes." Her mother began to cry, quietly, but Nora heard it. "He would be proud," her mother whispered. "I know it. I could not accept that you chose the same path, that I might lose you the same way. But you did not lose me. I am here, alive, and I want you at my wedding." A pause. "When?" "In 3 months. In Grand Rapids. I will send the details. I will come, if you truly want me." "I do, Mom, very much." "Then I will be there." Nora set down the phone feeling lighter than she had in years. Jacob hugged her from behind. "Is she coming?" "Yes." "That is good." "Yes, that is very good." The wedding took place in a small church on the edge of Grand Rapids. It was warm and sunny, the sky clear. Nora stood in a simple white dress, no lace, no adornments, just a thin silver pendant at her throat, the same one she always wore. Frank Dwyer walked her to the altar. He offered on his own, and she agreed. He wore a civilian suit, but he carried himself like a soldier, straight back, steady steps. "Thank you," she whispered as they walked. "For what?" "For believing in me back at the table, for standing up for me." "I did not defend you," Frank replied. "I simply told the truth, and the truth does not need defending." They reached the altar. Jacob stood there in a dark suit, smiling as if he had seen the sun for the first time. Frank placed Nora's hand into his. "Hold on tight," he told Jacob. "She is worth it." "I know," Jacob answered. The ceremony was short and simple. They exchanged vows, standard words, but full of meaning. When the minister said, "You may kiss the bride," Jacob drew Nora to him and kissed her as if nothing else existed. The guests applauded. Among them was Nora's mother in a gray dress, tears on her cheeks. She was smiling, for the first time in years. After the ceremony, there was a small reception in the garden. David raised a toast. "To my new daughter, a woman who taught me that strength is not a weapon. It is a heart ready to fight. For the people you love." Susan added, "And to my son, who found his other half, even when we tried to stand in his way." Everyone laughed. Anne lifted her glass. "To family, the real kind, not perfect, but honest." "Amen," they all said softly. Nora's mother came to her later, while others were dancing. "You are beautiful," she said, "as always. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for giving me a chance. I am sorry for everything." Nora hugged her, firmly, for a long time. "Me too," she whispered, "but we can start again." "I want that," her mother answered. "I want that very much." They stood like that, holding each other, while the sun went down. And in that embrace there was everything: forgiveness, hope, love. Late in the evening, Nora and Jacob stood on the church porch, looking at the stars. The guests had gone, the music had faded. Only the quiet remained, and the two of them. "Are you happy?" he asked. "Very," she answered, leaning into him. They stood holding each other until the first star appeared over the city. Nora looked at it and thought of her father, of Marcus, of everyone she had lost, and of everyone she had found. "What did you wish for?" Jacob asked. "Nothing," she answered, "because everything I need is already here." He smiled and pulled her closer, and in that moment under the starry sky, in a white dress, with a ring on her finger, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Peace. Subscribe to our channel so you do not miss out, because this is nothing compared to what is coming next. If you are under 18, do not even think about clicking next.